Since it has finally been revealed that Agnes is Agatha Harkness, this leaves us with some questions. The biggest being, what is the book she has in her basement? Welcome, watchers of the Marvel Multiverse. This is the voice of the Marvelous Wave. Let us observe all that occurs. The first and most obvious choice is probably the Darkhold. It is also known as the Shiatra, Book of the Damned, the Book of Sins, or the Book of Spells. We have actually already seen the Darkhold too, although it is a different version. It has previously shown up in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. when they were dealing with Robbie Reyes. But since these books look entirely different, could this be a new version or just a different version? On Earth 616 in Marvel Comics, the Darkhold is a book of spells left by the elder god Chthon, left as a conduit on Earth for his influence and power to spread. This might be an interesting take on the book if it is the Darkhold, because it may connect back to Demiurge, the sentient life force of Earth's biosphere. Shortly after the formation of the Earth, Demiurge created Chthon and his siblings. Chthon was eventually forced to flee Earth because Demogorge, the God-Eater. But before doing so, he compiled the Darkhold on flesh, and then left this tome on Earth, so one day, a doorway could be opened into Chthon's dimension. If this is a possibility, it could connect back to Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. This is because the Demiurge may be included due to the appearance of America Chavez and the possible introduction of the Utopian Parallel, which is a dimension out of time and outside of the multiverse itself. And since it was created by the Demiurge and exists within its presence, perhaps this version of the Darkhold will tie into Doctor Strange. This version of the Darkhold holds fast to that Lovecraftian style, but within the Marvel Universe and Marvel's style. This would be a great way to introduce eldritch horrors into the MCU. But then again, the Darkhold has already appeared in the MCU, and does that mean this is just a different version with very similar powers? In Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the Darkhold was used to both siphon power from and enter into the Hell Dimension. In the show, the Darkhold is known to contain unlimited knowledge that both teaches and corrupts. If this is a version of the MCU Darkhold, we may get to see the Hell Dimension again, but also Robbie Reyes. The biggest thing these doorways could do, though, is bring Mephisto into the MCU, as it has previously been speculated. This version seems like the likely choice, due to the future use it may have in the MCU, as well as the tie-ins it has to previous stories. And if this is a new version, how many versions of the Darkhold may be out there? The second option that this could be is the Druid Tome. This would be an interesting choice, because we see it in the first Vision and Scarlet Witch comic, which has some parallels to the show. The main thing is that this is their first adventure as a married couple. It starts off with them moving into their new home around Halloween. As they get comfortable and start unpacking, Wanda looks at a book that was given to her by Captain America for study. After it shows that Scarlet Witch is not yet able to read these druidic glyphs, they get distracted and set the book on the table near the fire. The warmth from the hearth awakens the powers of the book, and as they are distracted, it opens up to the page it needs to be on. As events unfold, it turns out that this book trapped the spirit of the druidic demon Samhain. In the comics, when Agatha Harkness acted as Scarlet Witch's teacher, she warned Wanda of Samhain's power. Could this new version of Agatha be working for him instead, or possibly being controlled by him? With it being that Samhain's spirit is trapped in the tome, that could explain why it was glowing. And what is happening between Wanda and Agatha could be setting up into a tangible corporeal form. In the comics, defeating him was fairly simple, however, destroying the tome before he was able to fully escape. This does seem a little less likely, however. Although the MCU has been known to change stories from the comics, Samhain is a bit more of a one-shot villain. But it would be interesting because it may still tie in with the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Since it was originally supposed to be released first, perhaps they find the Druidic Tome as Captain America does in the comics, and then it somehow finds its way to Agatha. This still seems a little less likely than the Darkhold, but it would be an interesting take so they could create a whole new story that no one is expecting. But these aren't the only two books that it could possibly be, as there are a lot of magic books in the MCU. We have seen some of these magical books, such as the Book of Cagliostro, and we may see more of them, such as the Book of Dormammu. But what are a few of the ones that this one could be? One thing to always keep in mind with the MCU, they very well may use a less popular or well-known artifact and turn it into something much bigger than it was in the comics. The first choice could be the Necronomicon, which is what the Darkhold is based off of. The only real difference here is that it is more closely related to actual Lovecraftian horror, taking directly from those Eldritch stories and using them in the MCU. Another Lovecraftian-esque book is the Book of Ryla. This could be a possibility because of the many rumors that something bigger is going to be summoned in to the MCU. In this case, the Book of Ryla foretells the coming of the Dweller in Darkness, as well as a counter-ritual to stop his coming. Another possibility is the Blue Decor, known as the Blood Bible because it causes death to anyone who casts one of its spells. And then there is the Black Book of Bast, which describes a way to kill someone by piercing a doll based on their appearance, basically a voodoo doll. The one time this is used, however, the person casting the spell accidentally kills themselves instead. Although, this is probably a little less likely, they could again change what the purpose of the book is. And the last one is the Grimorium Verum, one of the oldest occult textbooks said to be as powerful as the Darkhold. But the reason it's a little bit more possible than these other ones is that because it talks about summoning the devil, which could be Mephisto. But then again, there is always the possibility that we see a completely new book come into the MCU, or even an old book that has been completely rewritten. As we already know, Sword is completely different from how they appear in the comics, so there is nothing stopping the MCU from changing what we might already know to keep us in suspense. No matter what this book may end up being, it will probably show up in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, as it seems that WandaVision is most likely setting up that story. And it will also welcome a brand new villain into the MCU, open the doors of the multiverse, and possibly even be the reason for the formation of the Illuminati. I, for one, am excited to see what is inside of this tome, and just what it has to offer the future of the MCU. Of all the magical books in Marvel Comics, what do you think this book could be? Do you think it could be one of the ones we talked about above, or another one that we haven't touched on? Please let us know what your theories are in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, subscribe to assemble and join our team, and have a great day.